And we are live. Welcome to the process. It is Thursday, May 27th. I am Josh Engleman, and I am here to break down this 3-game NBA slate. And I'm hoping it goes a little bit better than yesterday, although it wasn't all bad. It was just kind of neutral. But some of the bad was real bad, in particular, Nerlens Noel. But what are you going to do? I dug into it a little bit more this morning. I don't regret it at all. Not at all. But Royce O'Neal, not too shabby, so I'll take what I can get. It's great seeing everybody in chat early this morning. Please, if you can, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live, and then head to Twitter and follow me at Josh Engleman. Only place you're going to get updates to my sim results that I run for the contenders videos. Only place you're going to get them as we get up until lock. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. I see tons of coffee cups. I'm happy to see that. Haywood, I am exhausted, man. It's 6:30 a.m. on Thursday. The end of the week is rough. It's not really great. The end of the week takes a long time to get to when you're getting up at the butt crack of dawn. Just is what it is. I slept great though. Per my sleep app, I woke up feeling refreshed. I just didn't want to get up. Well, it wasn't fun at all. So we got 3 games going today. We got Bucks Heat as the early game, Suns Lakers, Nugs Blazers, and a lot to play for in this one. I'm hoping the Bucks just win to make that series go away faster. I assume the Lakers win because they're relatively big favorites, but Nuggets Blazers, I wish that I could see more of that game, but there's no way that I could stay up till the end of Nuggets Blazers and then also come do this show tomorrow morning. So it's just not going to work like that. D Brown, happy you like the hat. Trying to represent for the Spurs today. Don't know why. They have no tie to this slate whatsoever, but we'll take what we can get. Nerlens Noel, man, that it could have been worse. He could have legitimately finished that game with 0 fantasy points, which would have been a bit of a disaster. That did not go well yesterday at all. About as bad as it could have possibly went. Danny Green also not ideal. But what are you going to do? Big one out of John Morant. That's kind of fun. So I think it's about that time that we get ourselves started. What do you say? I have my coffee. I hope that you do as well. If you do not have a coffee, any drink you got, whatever it is, tea, water, milk, orange juice. I said milk with disgust. I do like milk. Orange juice, pineapple juice, super underrated juice, by the way. Grab some pineapple juice, or if you gotta, if you're crazy, grab a beer or a shot, grab a joint, whatever you got here. Rise and grind. Let's get the point into the banner. Cheers, everybody. Let's knock this one out of the park. Let's get ourselves started for this Thursday, and let's put out the building blocks for a winner for today. Good luck, everybody. So I did. Oh man, I apparently I closed it. I wanted to point this out because I had a fantastic dum dum rolling up into my mentions, and then he blocked me this morning. I didn't even participate. It's fun. It's fun to see. But I wanted to take a look and see how wrong was I about Nerlens Noel, because I liked him a lot. He was very highly ranked for me, and I wanted to see if I had a miss. So what I did was I went to DK, went to the $20 150 max. This to me is the best option to try to figure something like this out. Nerlens Noel in this contest was 15.3% owned. Just scroll down a little bit so we can get him at the top. There we go. 15.3% owned on Nerlens Noel. If we look at just the guys that played 150 lineups in this contest yesterday, Nerlens Noel was 27% owned. So almost double the amount of ownership to just the 150 maxers for Nerlens Noel. In particular, by Awesemo, Alex played 48.7% Nerlens Noel in this contest. So 3x the field. If I look at friend of the program, Brick75, 39%. Rinpack, 37%. So I'm getting dragged, but I'm not really upset about it if the ownership is double from most of the pros. You know, we had Papa Gates, 26%. That's still almost double. Chipotle, 24. Still well above the field. Let's see. Let's check it. Anybody else that we see up there regular? How did Neil Corfield do it? 44% Nerlens Noel. I'm not going to have regrets if every other pro that, you know, like obviously I could add more of them. And we know what the average is going to be. We checked it out. But I'm not going to have any regrets recommending Nerlens Noel if he is one of the biggest leverage plays on the slate from the pros. I do, however, have one regret. I was a little bit light on Rudy Gobert. I recommended against him. Most of the pros were significantly over the field on Gobert, and that surprised me a bit. But I don't know what the leak was on the Gobert information. I just had a lot of trouble figuring out what was going to look best from Utah. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, there wasn't a lot to like from Utah outside of Gobert and Conley. I got the Conley piece right, but I was too light on Gobert. I went to Jonas Valanciunas instead. That was my miss. And that's what I'm going to have to look into to try to figure it out. But I'm happy where I'm at. I don't regret any bit of that. David, that is not true that no one mentioned Taj. Taj Gibson was 30% owned. He was twice as owned as Nerlens Noel. And that ownership was going to be all over the place. But once Nerlens Noel was ruled in as the starter, and given the way that it was described, I assumed he was going to be fine. Boy, were we wrong. Anyway, that's it. I just want to take a quick look at that because I think it's important to go back and basically check your work when you can. And Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But we're on to bigger and better things. In particular, today's slate, first game up, Denver Nuggets, Portland Trailblazers. And before we get it started, I know I asked for this 10 minutes ago. We're going to do it one more time. 60 viewers, 30 likes. Hit that thumbs up as you get in the door. We'll start it off with the Nugs. Ryan, no, I don't consider myself a pro. I don't play for a living. I work this job for my living. I don't actually. It's a combination of two things. One, I don't necessarily think that I'm as good as most of those guys. I could be. It's I don't have. It's data that I have at the very least. But two, the biggie, I'm not really cut out for it. Like, I don't like sweating games. I don't like the anxiety of gambling. I don't like I don't like the feeling of it. The grind of just playing DFS on a day-to-day basis really takes its toll on me from like an emotional standpoint. It's not real. Like, I don't love it enough to want to risk more money. I have the money. It's just not the way that I choose to use it. I like to play, but I don't. I played a lot more this NBA season because I had a pretty sizable hit at the beginning of the year. So I wanted to give myself a shot with that money. And I had my best NBA season of my life, but I went on a very, very sizable downturn in February, March, and April, where I just got absolutely bludgeoned and lost a lot of money. And it didn't feel good. And by the end of it, I was waking up in the morning like depressed because I didn't have another good day in GPPs. And that's the part where I just didn't have enough to reconcile my thought process, because I have the raw data for the entire NBA season. Highly profitable. Everything couldn't, like, I wouldn't change anything about the NBA regular season. To me, it went well. My underlying data, my 1% type lineups, I was happy with all of it. But because of the way that it happened, where I won early and took beating after beating after beating, losing 5 figures over 2.5 months, that wore on me bad. And it's just not something that I want to do all that often. So I like having stuff. I like having money in play. I like to play and like to grind it out. But for me to want to do this as a quote unquote pro, I don't have the stomach for it. Yeah. Also, I mean, like, I'm sure most of the pros do have lives and stuff, but for me, for the amount of content that I do, it would be hard for me to also play as a pro. It would break down my life with my wife. Anyway, rant over. Let's move on to Denver now. We saw Shaq Harrison get back into the rotation this past game, and I'm not at all surprised by that. So we are going to want to tweak some of these minutes at least a little bit. We've got Campazzo in for 34 minutes. I think that's probably fine. I've got Jokic in for 37. I think that's probably fine. I think most of these guys look okay. I think I'm good with Millsap. I'm good with Jermichael Green. I'm good with Aaron Gordon. Austin Rivers played 20 minutes. That is one that I want to at least take a peek at and see why that was happening. So Rivers, I guess we're just saying blowout didn't close. Instead of Rivers, they went to Monty Morris. Now, I think that is actually possible to continue. Morris was plus 19. And if he is, wait, that is Morris, right? Or is that Aaron Gordon? No, Morris was plus 19. It wouldn't surprise me if they wanted to close with Monty Morris over Austin Rivers. That is something like I think that it's just because Morris is still working his way back. So if Morris can go 29 minutes, I think that I need to bump those minutes up. So I'm going to go to 28 on Austin Rivers. That's going to get me up to 26 on Monty Morris. Yeah, he had 4 fouls, but even still, he never saw the floor again, and they went to Morris. But they did go back to all of the other starters. And I think that's a pretty interesting distinction. And that'll probably keep me largely away from Austin Rivers, which will help. The question is, where do I get the Shaq Harrison run from? Because there's not a natural place where those minutes came from. Like, I guess it's, he didn't really enter the rotation. That was more blowouty. So I'm just going to assume that he's still not playing in the rotation. You know what? I'm going to take 4 minutes away from Marcus Howard, take him to 12, and give him the Shaq Harrison. I think he sees the floor just slightly. If we're talking about rates, I don't have any changes that I want to make. I've got everything in for Jokic that I think belongs. So if we start this off by looking at Denver, by the way, 4-point dogs in Portland, 227 total. So Bucks, Heat, and Nuggets, Blazers have relatively high totals. Suns don't. They're like 15 points behind. So just right out of the gate, no surprises, because apparently these salaries just refuse to move. Michael Porter Jr., Nikola Jokic, my 2 preferred options on both FanDuel and DraftKings. They are, no doubt about it, core plays today. No matter what I look at for the rest of the day, Porter and Jokic are going to be at the top. And after that, there's not really a lot for Denver. Monty Morris is already priced up to $5K on FanDuel. He's 4,200 on DraftKings, which is a little bit better. But I think we're looking at Aaron Gordon and Campazzo before we look at anything else. But Porter and Jokic, FanDuel or DraftKings, you want to load up on those 2 guys. Now let's move to the Lakers. Do we have any interesting information about the Lakers for today? I assume that we do not. We do not. So, Lakers rotations from the most recent 2 games, including the second game. Now, I do think it's very interesting that we saw no Montrezl Harrell and they went to Marc Gasol. That wasn't something I was expecting in this series, but I guess once DeAndre Ayton smashed game 1, we needed to take a look at this. And Marc Gasol in this game was -4, which is not ideal, but it did stop the bleeding quite a bit. I am going to assume, since they pulled out the W, that Marc Gasol is going to be playing over Montrezl Harrell once again. That, I think, is an important distinction to make. I do want to just totally throw that rotation in the garbage, though, just to make sure I build it out correctly. So I'm going to go 22 minutes to Andre Drummond at the center spot. I'm going to go 18 minutes to Marc Gasol, with 8 going to Anthony Davis, plus another 32. That allows me to get 16 here for LeBron. I think he gets probably up to 38. So let's go 22 there. Kyle Kuzma has played 20 minutes in both games, so I'm going to give him 20 minutes again. Dennis Schroeder played 33.5 minutes and 34 minutes in both games, so 34 minutes feels pretty good there. The Caruso is going to play somewhere in that 22-minute range. So that leaves me up for KCP, 32 minutes. So I've got 14 minutes left for Talen Horton-Tucker and Wesley Matthews. That makes sense. 8 and 6. Done. 240 minutes for the Lakers. Easy peasy. Rates are in for AD, Schroeder, and LeBron. I have no changes that I want to make otherwise, which means the Lakers, Anthony Davis, my clear top option on FanDuel over LeBron, 10-4 on FanDuel. LeBron is 10-3. I greatly prefer Anthony Davis there. Not to say that I don't like LeBron, but I just think that Anthony Davis is the better fantasy player and potentially a guy that'll be on the floor a little bit more. On the DK side, I prefer AD to LeBron, 9,700 to 9,800, but I also have no problem getting to LeBron. I think AD is in the same pack as Jokic and Porter, whereas LeBron is going to be the step behind that. Not that there's anything you could really do with that sort of information, but if we grab Denver and the Lakers, you guys will be able to see what I mean. Denver, Lakers, okay. So you see Porter, Jokic. I mean, Porter's on his own sort of tier here, but Porter, Jokic, AD, and then we get like a 5-point drop off to LeBron. Similar story over here. We've got Jokic and Porter at the top with AD. LeBron is there, but he's definitely my third priority in pay up options just so far out of these two teams. Then we move to Miami, who I assume are going to really mix things up here, or at least throw some sort of other crap against the wall to see what sticks, because being down 2-0 is probably not what they're looking for. I think that we probably have to see 36 minutes out of Bam if this is going to go well. I've got Dragic in for 28 minutes. I think that's what they're going to be looking for. I actually don't think I have a lot of potential changes here. We saw Bielitsa get 12 minutes. That's mostly blowout type stuff. I'm not entirely sure he gets to the floor today, but he might. I just don't know what they could possibly do. Maybe they go to more minutes for Iguodala over Trevor Ariza. I'm just sort of spitballing here. I think they're going to need more out of Bam. I think that's going to be the most important piece here. And I feel like I probably need an extra minute going to Dragic. I feel like 29 makes a little bit more sense. But at the same time, I got to take it from somebody. And I don't really know who that somebody is. I guess it could be Tyler Hero because he's been dog balls so far this series. If we look at Miami, we've got Jimmy Butler at 9,100 on FanDuel, 8,400 on DraftKings. It shouldn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that Jimmy Butler is the best play on Miami. 8,400 for Jimmy is elite. That's going to be, I think, number 2 behind Michael Porter Jr. And that's a hell of a combination of Butler and Porter at relatively cheap salaries. Bam, 8,200 on FanDuel, 7,500 on DraftKings. If this series is going to be anything, I think he needs to take a step forward. I think he projects really well. He's been at 1.15 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. I've got him at 1.18 here. So those are the two guys that stand out most. Trevor Ariza, oddly enough, would be third on FanDuel. I don't like it. 0.7 fantasy points per minute in this game, but I think it's just going to have to happen. I think he's going to be out there. You know what? I'm going to take a minute away from him and give it to Iggy. Yeah, that's fine. And then Dragic, 5,100 on DraftKings. He's their third best player in the playoffs. So if they get cooking offensively, I think it could be Dragic. So I do like him on DK. Ryan, I don't expect them to do that again. They were down by 30 when that was happening. I think they were just trying to throw anything out there they could to see what would work. But I don't think that's a long-term scenario. And they got smacked when they did it. So let's add in Miami. I want to see just specifically where those guys end up landing. Ooh. Play. That's when you notice it. All right, so Butler was close. So Butler is just slightly behind Jokic by basically like a half point. So it's still Porter at the top, but you get Butler and Bam in that core. So on DK, Porter, Jokic, Butler, AD, and Bam. Those 5 guys are going to be very, very heavily used in my DK lineups today. On the FanDuel side, you get Jokic and Porter at the top. You take a step down to AD and Butler, and then you get to that next tier with Bam. So it's all the same guys at the top, but they're grading out really, really well. Like some of these studs are well underpriced. Now on the Milwaukee side, can't imagine we're making too many changes. You know, they're coming in off a 2 wins, so you don't really shake things up all that much. We saw guys get way more run in this second game just because of the way it all broke, but I imagine this rotation is what we're looking for. 18 minutes for PJ Tucker, roughly 38 minutes for everybody else that's relevant, whether that's Giannis, Middleton. I got 37 minutes for Drew. I'm pretty happy with all of this. I don't really know what else I could possibly change. So if we look at Milwaukee, Giannis 11-1 on FanDuel, 10-9 on DraftKings. He's going to be right there in that pay up option mix with Jokic and with AD. Definitely going to be ahead of LeBron. Drew Holiday is like a step and a half ahead of Chris Middleton on DraftKings. Holiday is $400 cheaper. On FanDuel, though, it's the opposite. Middleton is like a step and a half ahead of Holiday. Middleton is $800 cheaper than Drew Holiday. So if you're playing on both sites, you'll want to go to more Middleton on FanDuel, more Drew on DraftKings. After that, I think you could talk yourself into a little bit of Dante DiVincenzo, a little bit of Brook Lopez, but nobody immediately standing out from the Milwaukee bench. 106 viewers, 50 likes. Guys, we're below a 50-50 ratio. That is not ideal, and you know it. The only way to rise and grind is to hit that like button. It's the perfect way. All right, we go to Phoenix, where I don't really know what to do. How do we manage this Phoenix Suns team? I mean, Chris Paul is definitely not healthy. But I don't think there's any way to project him like he's not playing a lot. This one is going to be a very troublesome scenario. So I am going to give him 34 minutes, and then I'm going to give Cam Payne 18 for right now. I'm going to take a couple more minutes off of Torrey Craig and give those to Cam Payne as well. So that gets Cam Payne to 22 minutes. I've got Chris Paul in at 34 because I think that details out a better expectation. I've got 35 minutes for DeAndre Ayton, but he's played more than that. So I'm going to go to 36. We're going to get 12 for Saric. I've got 40 for Mikal Bridges, but I'm going to make that 38 so that I can give Cam Johnson 2 more. Phoenix is all over the place. For a team that had like a pretty set rotation, I feel less confident in these guys right now. All right, so we've got Booker in, we've got Bridges rates in. All right, so what do we got for Phoenix? Because obviously this is a terrible matchup, slow pace, tough defense, and that kind of shows here. It's Bridges at the top for FanDuel for me once again, 5,300, but not the crazy value that he was previously. DeAndre Ayton is at the top of the heap on DraftKings, 6,300. And that's just because he's playing 36 minutes. It's hard to go a different direction. Devin Booker, 8,300 on FanDuel, 8,100 on DraftKings. Looks solid on both, but definitely better on DK. I think you're going to have a hard time getting to Chris Paul at 7,400. Ownership will play a big role there. Cam Payne is up to 5,300 on FanDuel, so he's basically unplayable. He's 4,800 on DraftKings. That's basically unplayable. Cam Johnson would be the guy that I think you could take a flyer on DraftKings, where he's 3,700. If the shot's falling, he's just going to pick up some extra time. So keep an eye on Cam Johnson today. That one wouldn't surprise me. But if we add Phoenix into the list, like you're going to see, they're not really in the same ballpark. So you see, if we get Phoenix in here, like Ayton slots into the 6th spot, but that's clearly behind this tier that includes Bam. Same for Booker. They're there, but they're just sort of in the mix. On the FanDuel side, you get to Booker in the 6th spot, but negative value mark well below Bam. So nothing from Phoenix is really in play all that much. Cali Marsh, he's probable. He's not going to get ruled out. Play more campaign, though, if he does. All right, Portland. This series 1-1, so this is obviously very, very important. I don't expect any major changes for the Blazers. They don't really have major changes to make. $32 minutes for Nurk. Makes sense. 39 and 38 for Dame and CJ. I guess I probably need to go to 40 on Dame. I don't really know how else I could do it. 38 for CJ. Could probably take a minute away from Norm Powell if I needed to. Yeah, that all seems pretty fine to me. Rates are all going to stay the same. I don't really have any changes here that I could possibly make. So, on that note, actually, what does that take Norm Powell to? You know what? I don't hate that. Don't hate it at all. So, Portland. CJ McCollum, oddly enough, at the top of the heap on FanDuel at 7,300. Dame on FanDuel is 10.5. That is a healthy number that's going to put him behind every other pay-up guy except for LeBron. I'm going back to Covington at 4,500. It was dreadful last time on FanDuel, but I think you still need to look at him. He's not as interesting at 4,400 on DraftKings. Dame, though, 9,400 on DK is a fantastic price for him. I really like getting to Dame in that situation. CJ still looks really good on DraftKings. Yusuf Nurkic for 6,800 looks really good on DraftKings. Even Norm Powell to a degree at 5,400. I like getting to Portland. They are grading out a lot better than I was truly expecting. And as we see now, on DK, Dame is basically tied with Giannis relative to salary, slightly ahead of Jokic, but Dame is my number 3 here. And then we also see CJ sneaking in and Nurkic sneaking in. All of these guys are ahead of anything from Phoenix. On the FanDuel side, we see CJ get to the 6th spot. Dame a little bit tougher at 10.5, but still ahead of LeBron. LeBron definitely my least favorite pay down option or pay up option. But we're already through it, guys. The rotations are pretty easy to handle during the playoffs. So what's more interesting to me is running optimals. We want to know what this actually is going to look like when we get to the slate. So we're going to start it off as we usually do. FanDuel Optimal. If you're here, I see that we have 69 likes. I'd like for that to stay there, but I obviously can't let it happen. Please hit that thumbs up. It helps out a ton. There we go. Optimal lineup on FanDuel. Dennis Schroeder, Alex Caruso, CJ McCollum, Dante DiVincenzo, Jimmy Butler, Mikal Bridges, Michael Porter Jr., Robert Covington, and Nikola Jokic. Nothing too crazy there. It's a bit more balanced than I thought it would be. Getting to Caruso seems different. He has been not good so far at all. But it makes sense. Give me 1 second. Dog's at the door. Forgot to shut the door. Dog is showing up. Oh, Shark Killer. Trust me, I agree. But I needed to know for my posterity. I wasn't expecting to see DiVincenzo in this optimal either, but I think that's okay. No, Cantor, no. You can also drop down 0.5 of a point Swap out Schroeder for Chris Paul, and that's it. No, that can't be right. Swap out Caruso for Chris Paul and Jokic for Ayton. That makes more sense. I don't really like that FanDuel optimal, so let's see what we get when we take a look at the power rankings, because I think that'll hash out a little bit better. How the hell is Austin Rivers still showing up so highly on FanDuel? That makes... How bad is shooting guard today? Oh, that makes a lot of sense. All right, power rankings on FanDuel. Covington, McCollum, DiVincenzo, Porter Jr., Bridges, Butler, Rivers, Booker, Middleton, Powell, Paul, Antetokounmpo, Campazzo, Bam Adebayo. Look at shooting guard on FanDuel today. CJ, Booker, DiVincenzo, Rivers. CJ, Booker, DiVincenzo, Rivers. Yeah, like guys like Kendrick Nunn and Tyler Hero are going to get 15 to 20% ownership today, and they look like absolutely dreadful plays, sub 4x values. There's nothing at shooting guard at all. God, that is nuts. That is truly nuts. Wow, 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 wow. That is so bad. That is atrocious. At point guard, you know, you get this core at the top of Paul, Campazzo, Drew, Schroeder, Dame. They all look really similar relative to salary. And then you start jamming in garbage like Caruso and Monty Morris just to make it work. This is a tough slate. It's bleak. Bridges, Butler, Middleton, they're the obvious values. Norm Powell as well. It's hard to want to get to LeBron with all of the other pay up options that exist. I mean, you get Iguodala and Kuzma. You get Iggy showing up in 4% of these lineups. He's projected for 11 fantasy points. At power forward, you know, you're going back to Covington because you want to spend up on Giannis or spend up on AD or spend up on Jokic. Porter Jr. obviously just a fantastic option. The bottom half of power forward is pretty gross. And then at center, I mean, it's kind of a deep center spot between Bam, Jokic, Ayton, Nurk. You know, you wouldn't be surprised if it were Brook Lopez that went crazy. Andre Drummond is starting, but he's 6,900. That just makes it kind of tough. Really tricky FanDuel slate. Let's see if DraftKings opens up a little bit more. All right, DraftKings optimal. $274.8. That's a lot of Portland. Anthony Simons, Norm Powell, Jimmy Butler, Robert Covington, Bam Adebayo, CJ McCollum, Michael Porter Jr., and Yusuf Nurkic. So 5 Blazers in the optimal as of right now. I'm not surprised by it. Like, a lot of these guys are just pretty wildly underpriced. You get to the Bam Butler combo. So if you think that Miami looks good today, you like that. And then you have Porter on the opposite side. Only 3 teams represented. That's nuts. You could drop down 0.8 of a point, bring in DiVincenzo and Dragic and Mikal Bridges, swapping out Nurk and Simons and Norm Powell. I don't know. Power rankings will look a little bit different here. Nothing too crazy in that one. Optimal doesn't shock me with Simons. Yeah, Michael Porter Jr., the unquestioned top play to me on DK today. Just too easy to get to. Price is just too cheap. Covington, pretty clearly my number 2. Norm Powell, CJ McCollum, Dante DiVincenzo, Jimmy Butler, Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, Bam Adebayo, Goran Dragic, Damian Lillard, Yusuf Nurkic, Drew Holiday, and Jay Crowder. Look, Robert Covington's 4,400. There's a 32. There's a 30. That's 2 of his last 10 games. I mean, those are sort of the odds of hitting a value metric. 20% is pretty solid. It's not ideal, but when it's there, you kind of got to be there, and positions sort of make it different. Look, I don't like rostering Robert Covington either, but we're learning that you're not going to feel good making lineups for any of this stuff. You need him to go better than 1 for 3 from the field with 1 rebound and 1 assist, though, because that's dreadful. Doesn't matter about usage. These guys have salaries. It's not like I'm projecting Robert Covington to have 20% usage rate today. What actually do I have it at? Yeah, I've got Robert Covington projected for 9.9% usage. So, it's not like I'm projecting him with lofty aspirations. Just how it works. Seriously, though, like to think about it a little bit more. What do I have that set at right now? Where the hell is it? There it is. All right, so I've got it at 4.5 plus 9 for Covington on DraftKings. So that's 4.5 plus 9. So I have Robert Covington's target score on DraftKings set for 28.8, which I think that he hits 22% of the time, which based on his game logs, like that makes sense to me. 1, 2, 3, 4 hits it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits it again. So 2 out of 10, you're right at that 20% mark of hitting that target score. Like that's not, you're slowly sprinkling them in. And that's what people need to remember. Like I could think that Robert Covington is the second best play on this slate, but he only hits that target number 22% of the time. So the second best guy that I think exists today, he's probably going to be my second contender, only gets to that successful score basically 1 out of every 4.5 times. Like it's not. There's a difference between being the best and the relative likelihood of your success. And that's where people get lost. Like, I might be recommending Robert Covington. Yes, he's more than often than not going to average like 23 fantasy points. But on the 1/5 of the times where he does hit that mark, Robert Covington is what allows you to get to those better players down the line. And that's what I think gets lost. Just because I think someone's second best doesn't mean I think that they're frequently awesome. That's not what we have here. Not even close. Well, guys, let's run Yahoo quickly. And then let's pack it in. Then I'm going to run some contenders videos. All right, on to Yahoo. Bang. Optimal lineup on Yahoo. Dame Lillard, Dante DiVincenzo, CJ McCollum, Chris Middleton, Jay Crowder, Aaron Gordon, DeAndre Ayton, Yusuf Nurkic. Gambit, I'm with you, but it hurts to click Dwayne Dedman's name 2 days ago. It hurts to click Royce O'Neal's name yesterday. Like these guys, when you can bet on minutes, it matters. It just does. You got to take your shot because it doesn't take much. Robert Covington can poke his way into two run-out steals, and immediately, we're talking. If we say it on FanDuel, immediately he's got 10 fantasy points if he gets the bucket, and that could happen. And then all of a sudden, like it doesn't take a lot more for him to just be functional. Power rankings on Yahoo, and then we done. Aaron Gordon looking like he's going to be at the top of the list in a dogfight with Jay Crowder right now. It looks like Jay Crowder's going to take him over. It's going to be close. Down the stretch they come. It is DeAndre Ayton. Interesting. Ayton, Crowder, Gordon, McCollum, Monty Morris, Dante DiVincenzo, Mikal Bridges, Chris Middleton, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Norm Powell, Yusuf Nurkic, Michael Porter Jr., and Robert Covington. And yes, Gambit, I did see what Thibault did yesterday. Insane in such limited amounts of time. Like, that's what we're talking about. Obviously, Thibault's a very different guy, but imagine if Thibault played 30 minutes, what we'd be projecting him for. It'd be crazy. All right. FanDuel Optimals, done. DraftKings Optimals, done. Yahoo Optimals, done, which means we are done. 123 viewers, 85 likes. If you're here and you haven't done it yet, please hit that thumbs up. It would help me out a ton. We can get pretty close to 100, I believe. And if you see that we're close, just hit it anyway. Should be a good day. Contenders videos coming out immediately after this. Strategy show with Adam Kaufman today at 10. I didn't really remember that until right now, but it'll be me and Koff. And then that's it for me. I don't have Live Before Lock or Deeper Dive or anything, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Or keep your eyes peeled to my Twitter, rather. I never actually said what that was. Keep your eyes peeled to my Twitter for my sim updates later today. I am cooking dinner. I don't know if I'm going to play tonight's slate. I probably will throw in a cash lineup, but I will have an update either way. But cooking some dinner for the wife since she's heading out of town tomorrow feels like something I should do. So I think that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It's always great to start my day. I hope you guys have the same sort of feel. It's great to start your day like this. We'll be back again tomorrow morning for another process show. Final one of the week. We're getting pretty close to the end of process shows, which is kind of a bummer, but we'll figure something out. We'll add some more content in some way, I promise. Anyway, that's it. Good luck tonight, everybody. Check out everything else we've got going on today. I'll see you guys in the morning.